We're looking at Wednesday in the NBA. There are 9 games on. Let's stream in, guys, off the waiver wire. Is that going to win you a championship? I bloody hope so. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I've just been notified that I won the Eastern Conference Podcaster of the Month. Not because I was the best, because I was mid with good vibes. Well, a little bit better than mid. Oh, I'm actually being told I don't have good vibes. No, that's fair enough. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. Check out lockedondaily.com. You can sign up for a free newsletter over there. It's easy to do. I encourage you to do it. It is free, and it is the best information on your favorite NBA team. We are here to look at Wednesday's action in the NBA, to preview those games. There are 9 of them on. We're going to look at the best waiver wire pickups for points leagues and category leagues in all the different categories. It is International Fact-Checking Day. So, I encourage you to check my facts. I encourage you to check all the information that is presented at all points. And make sure you interpret it correctly. What can we talk about? Let's start by looking at the schedule. Let's talk about back-to-backs. Let's talk about how all that stuff can play out and the ways that we can take advantage of it. There are 4 teams coming into Wednesday on a back-to-back that play on Tuesday. And it's important because we've got a few little injury things we need to clear up here. The Hawks, the Nuggets, the Knicks, and the Spurs. The Knicks will be important to note, not in terms of who's randomly sitting a back-to-back. That won't happen. It's more the injury status of their point guards. But the Nuggets is going to be key. They are listing both Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon as questionable on Tuesday. Gordon has not been playing back-to-backs with his multiple calf issues, and Murray's dealing with a hamstring. So there has got to be a chance, and at this point I'm projecting them in on Tuesday and out on Wednesday. But there is a chance, I think, that both of those guys, especially Gordon, don't play in Wednesday's game. The Hawks, they should be okay in terms of the back-to-back, and then you get to the Spurs, where Charles Bassey is already sitting out on Tuesday, but he should be able to play on Wednesday. Now, we haven't seen guys like Chris Paul sit out any games, so I think he'll be okay. But just, you never know, we are getting to that stage of the season where it's basically just the Wild West. In terms of teams playing the Wednesday to Thursday back-to-back, there's 2 of them. It's the Heat and it's the Wizards. And at times, the Heat can be a team that has options, but it's just hard to sort of peg down what's going to actually happen. And then we get to the Wizards, where we've had some problems with back-to-backs with their big men, where sometimes it's not Vukcevic, it's Holmes instead, or we get randomness from Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart and Justin Champagny and Colby Jones and JT Thor and Jalen Martin and Keyshawn George and like everyone. It's all over the shop. So we're at least getting 2 Wizards games, but I just don't know what they're going to do with those 2 Wizards games. So we just got to be on our toes to pay attention to what happens. Usually, most of the shenaniganizing happens in the second game of the back-to-back, but not always. And then we throw in the added fact that we don't even know if guys like Smart and Middleton are going to play again, because Middleton's dealing with knee soreness, which you'll be shocked to find out. If we get chunky here, and we will, we're looking towards Wednesday through to Sunday. That's the last 5 days of the week. The problem being here is that Sunday is an 11-game day. And it is really, really difficult to look at Sunday with 11 games on and consider it a streaming day. So I'm not. So which players and which teams play 3 games in 4 nights between Wednesday and Saturday? And there are a few players. Now, they're not exciting names, and you might be able to find better players who play 2 games. But if we're looking for the 3-game options across those 5 days, not including Sunday, we could go to Haywood, Highsmith. It's risky. We could get spolstered at any point. But with Andrew Wiggins dealing with injuries, Duncan Robinson dealing with injuries, you feel okay about that. Like, you could throw, that's like chuck and throw into one word. You could throw Pala Larson in there. Little Chungus could return. Nikola Jovic. You could have Alec Burks in there. We could get cameos from Terry Rozier again, or Jaime Jaquez Jr. Any of those guys could be in there. But I'll throw Highsmith in there. I'll put Derrick Jones in there for the Clippers. There is a back-to-back, so he at least gets minutes bump in one of those games. Same with Chris Dunn, who plays the back-to-back, but Kawhi does not. Neither does Ben Simmons, so we see like 3, 4, 5 extra minutes for those guys. And then the next 2 guys, their production is down. Production is down. Max Christie and Kai Jones. And we've also got the problem now that Derrick Lively is returning for the Mavs. So it is possible, and this is risky, that's why I wanted to talk about it, but it's possible that Kai Jones doesn't play these games. Because if Lively and Gafford and Davis are all there, he may not. But there's a back-to-back. So you're not going to have Gafford, Lively, and AD playing in the back-to-back. How they stagger them, I don't know. So you at least get the 2 games out of Jones, and then you've got to watch to see if in that first one, before the back-to-back happens, whether Gafford, Lively, and Davis all play and where Jones fits. As for Christie, he's been terrible. Like, he had some really interesting games in LA and came to Dallas and a few little moments, and he has lost the trust completely of Jason Kidd. If only they had a player who was similar to that they could have kept instead of trading away, including a draft pick for Caleb Martin, that would have been useful for them. But alas, they don't have Quentin Grimes. Christie's doing nothing. And it's in a situation where Brandon Williams can't even play and he's still doing nothing. But 3 games in 4 nights of nothing, with the potential of maybe one of them popping, probably unlikely, it's interesting. And then another one, this is how you know you're getting desperate, is I'm going to tell you that Tim Hardaway might be useful. Now, Hardaway's been good. Again, that is one of the biggest knock-on-woods ever, but he's been good. Largely because Cade has been out and Tobias Harris has been out. There is zero guarantee that those guys are returning. Plus, we actually did get the suspensions handed down for the Pistons and Wolves game. It took over a day, which is a little bit frustrating, where every player got 1 game who was ejected, apart from suspension legend Isaiah Stewart, who got 2. So Stewart got 2, DiVincenzo got 1, Reed got 1, Sasser got 1, and Rugged Ronnie Holland got 1. So 3 Pistons are going to be out. And you got Cade and Tobias Harris on top of that. So it is going to work in Timmy's favor to be, there's multiple avenues for him to do more. And that's at least in one of those games, and there's an elevation, and then you see what happens. But yeah, it's not good. There's not many good 3 and 4 night players, but there are a few that we can look at. If we look at 5s and 2s, there's only one team. There's no one plays 5 games over the next 7 nights, but there is one team that plays 2, and it's our Orlando Magic. They play Thursday, and then they don't play again until I think it's Monday. It's bad. So your Paulo and Franz, you still probably do need to hold them, but if your league ends this Sunday, Yahoo default leagues, after Thursday, you're cutting every Magic player. They're done after Thursday. Remember that. And I will highlight that in all shows. I try to highlight when we can drop guys. But you don't get excited about Mr. Black or Karl-Anthony or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or Goga Badadze or Wendell Carter. It's just pointless. There's no games. 2 games, 7 nights. Absolutely useless. Let's do some contract tracking. There's only 4 guys I really want to talk about here. We already know that Kessler Edwards and Brandon Williams cannot play for the Mavericks. If there's someone here that I don't mention, they either cannot play, and that's only those 2 guys that I mentioned, or they can play every game. So Wendell Moore Jr. for the Hornets has got 3 games left on his 2-way contract. Interestingly, Damian Bohr can play every game, but they're just not. They're just keeping him in the G League, so I don't really get what's going on there. Same with KJ Simpson. He can play every game, but Wendell Moore's got 3 left. Kai Jones has got 4 left, but like I said, there is zero guarantee that he plays in every game here because Derrick Lively might return. Alfred Payton signed a second 10-day with the Pelicans, so he can play 5 more games on that 10-day, meaning I think it's the last 2 games that he can't play. But he can play 5 more games, and there's no CJ or Zion. And then in Washington, Jalen Martin's got 2 games left. And he's had a couple of spike games. He's hard to trust, obviously, with only 2 games out of the last, 8 games left. He can only play 2 of them. But if you get the word that he's in, and they're shuffling guys around, we saw Colby Jones and JT Thor, the God of Hammers, said back to the G League in the last game. You just watch on that with Martin, but that's the statuses of those guys. Let's run through some injuries that we need to pay attention to. In Washington, Keyshawn George, will he return? He's missed 4 in a row with that sprained ankle, and obviously his absence means that we get maybe more opportunities for Jalen Martin or Bub Carrington or AJ Johnson or whoever they decide to chuck in there. And then what about Chris Middleton? Will he play again? I actually don't think he will. But I don't know that. He left that game after 14 minutes the other day, never returned, and hasn't played since. And we're not holding him, but his absence opens things up for others. In Indiana, these are more important. It's Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin. If Turner is out, you can take a crack at Bryant, but you can look at Toppin as well. And if Mathurin is out, it's obviously Neesmith and it's Nembhard who get the bumps. Karl-Anthony Towns coming in on the back-to-back. He's listed questionable for Tuesday. His knee is clearly not right. And I said earlier, I should have mentioned this. I said it earlier about the Knicks that, hey, they're probably not going to rest on the back-to-back. This guy's knee is cooked, right? So I am a little worried that he sits one of these 2 games. And obviously Mitchell Robinson won't play both games. So you could get a spike Robinson game because he has played 25 minutes in a game, Mitch. And the minutes he's playing now is not because of health. It's because of being Mitchell Robinson. So if Towns is out, we might get a spike in Mitch. Or If Towns sits and Robinson sits, then it will be a chewer. I would think they wouldn't be dumb enough to do that unless Towns is out both games. So just watch that one. And then we don't know about the Knicks point guards, about whether McBride or Payne are going to return on Wednesday. They're both out on Tuesday. If they're both out again, we go to DeLon Wright, and then deeper leagues, you go to Tyler Kolek. Some other injuries to look at here. Jaylen Brown missed the last game for the Celtics. I put Jaylen Brown's name there. Not that I necessarily think he will sit. He might. Also, by the way, he has not played over 30 minutes in like a week and a half. And he's missed games. But I'm very certain, not 100%, but I'm very certain, much like, I was actually also certain that Ja Morant would sit out Tuesday, coming back off a hamstring strain after he played 33 or 35 minutes on Monday, and he's going to play the back-to-back. I don't know. I've never seen an NBA team mismanage a hamstring injury, so I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure everything is good to go, and there's absolutely no problem with that, and especially with a guy that's been so clean in terms of his injury history and lower body stuff. It's been great for Ja, and I'm sure there's absolutely no problem with any of that, and that's a team also with a flawless injury reporting record. So I'm sure everything is totally above board with Memphis and Ja Morant. I did get it wrong. Was certain that he wouldn't play on Tuesday, but I understand that they probably know a lot better than me in that scenario, because all the track record would suggest that they've been so good at that sort of stuff. Anyway, I expect one of the Celtics players is going to be out. I don't know who. Will it be Brown, Holiday, White, Tatum, Porzingis, Horford? Could be any of them. The Cavs, and the Thunder, I expect somebody out of the rotation basically every night from now on. And I just don't know who. Davion Mitchell's another status we need to check for Miami. He's ill. He missed the last game. If he's in, we're interested in streaming him. And then it's the Jazz. What do we do here? Is Markkanen done? I think he probably is. Is Sexton done? Don't know. He didn't play in their last game because it was against the Hornets, but do they bring him back for 22 minutes a night? What about Walker Kessler, who's missed 2 in a row now? I don't think that Kessler is done, but he could be. They're the 3 we need to watch. Kessler, Markkanen, and Sexton. Because Collins is cooked. He's not coming back. We know that. Derrick Lively, like I said, is questionable. And then looking at the 2 Nuggets guys, Aaron Gordon and the headmaster Jamal Murray, we'll see whether they play on Tuesday. They're both listed questionable. If they're out on Tuesday, then their chances of playing Wednesday are high. If they play on Tuesday, their chances of playing Wednesday are pretty low. And then we go to Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris. Cade's missed a bit of time here with his calf, which looked like it was just like a... Originally, I said, hey, watch for Cade. They give him random rests after the workload builds up, so he might sit one game. And then he did, and I went, okay, that's the thing that I thought would happen. And now it looks a little bit more serious. And same with Tobias Harris, who was a late scratch in the last game with Achilles soreness. We need to watch their statuses. And then the Thunder, like I said, with the Celtics, Aaron Wiggins has missed the last bunch of games. But if he plays, just watch on Lou Dort. Let's watch on Jalen Williams. Let's watch on Shea. Let's watch on Dort. Let's watch on Wallace. Let's watch on Chet. Let's watch on Hartenstein. Somebody can be out. So I'd expect that too. And then the Pelicans, Jordan Hawkins. While we don't get that interested in Jordan Hawkins, if he is out, it means more for Keon Brooks. It means more for Antonio Reeves. And that does open up opportunities for us in that particular space. We're going to come back and talk about points league streaming, and then we're going to get into category league streaming as well. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The baseball season has started. My Padres, we're 5-0. We're cooking. And if you want to get in on all of the sports action with PrizePicks, it's the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It might be strikeouts. It might be RBIs. Maybe you want to put into your lineup whether Martin Maldonado will get another 2-hit game. Yeah, maybe, because that's how good the Padres are. You never know. You can build your lineup with Shohei. You can put Aaron Judge in there. Maybe you want to chuck in a Randy Vasquez masterclass in strikeouts. You can do all of that over at PrizePicks, and when you win, you can get the payouts fast. The lineups take less than 60 seconds to set. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is the code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Yes, you're back. Locked on Fantasy Basketball. We're here talking fantasy. You ready to stream in some guys? Let's talk points leagues. Let's talk Yahoo points leagues. Let's start with that. That's probably the right way to go about this, I would say. And the part of this time of the season, you can approach it in 2 ways, and I'm not really going to blame either one of them. Right? You can look at, hey, I feel comfortable with this team, and I sort of know what they're going to do. Lakers, Rockets, Timberwolves. There's a ton of these teams where you go, their rotation's rock solid. Or you can be like, I'm going to take flyers on the bad teams because there's so much usage and minutes that can open up, understanding that my level of risk is so elevated. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So for Yahoo points, Jose Alvarado is a different story to me. I've got him at the top of this list because while that's a bad team and his production's up and down, I feel pretty confident about his minutes. I feel pretty confident about his role. There's no CJ. Hawkins may or may not be out, but Jose's going to start, I'm guessing, like without any question. So I feel confident there. I've got Peyton Watson there, but that is under the assumption that Aaron Gordon is out. And we have seen Watson getting a ton of minutes, and Michael Malone, for whatever reason, has decided, yeah, I'm a Peyton Watson guy now. So he's in. He's a Peyton Watson guy. He's leaning in. And he's really giving him big minutes. And if Gordon is out, you might get 35 Peyton Watson minutes. You might. I've got AJ Johnson here. He falls into the second category that I mentioned earlier of like, I don't know. Now, his minutes are relatively secure, but if Keyshawn plays, if Middleton returns, does AJ start? Does he play 30 minutes? Does he play 38? Does he shoot 2 of 9? Does he get 20 points? Does he get 7 steals? I don't know. He's all over the place, but he is risky. But I would say the majority of, if you do manual simulations in your mind of how the game plays out, which now that I say that out loud, and that's how I do things. Like, and I don't really mean to do it necessarily, so I sit there and go, if I looked at how this game plays out 20 times, I'm not going to do 10,000. My brain doesn't work that way. If I looked at it 20 times, I would say that 12 of those times AJ plays 33 minutes. And I can see scenarios where he plays 10 or 20, and that's the risk that's involved. And that's, again, how I approach a lot of this stuff, where how often can I see this going awry? And for AJ, I can see it, but not often enough to dissuade me totally. Kelly Olynyk is there, and he is going to start. I don't really get why they're starting him, but they are. But that's okay. And at the moment, he's doing enough. Bub Carrington's minutes also relatively secure. He played a ton in the last game. If George and Middleton do play, it will hurt him somewhat. He is iffy in usage and shooting at times, but I like it there. And then one of the biggest ifs of all time is Tristan Vukcevic. I don't think that Holmes will go back-to-back, and by back-to-back, I just mean 2 games in a row, because he played the last game, and we saw Vukcevic still get 22 minutes. Will Holmes get zeroed out here? Will Vukcevic play 22 again? Will he play 26? If he plays 22, I'm good with him here. If he plays 10, it's bad. If he plays 28, then jump him up the board. And part of the reason, actually, my projections have him higher than this. I put him down the bottom here because I'm just so uncertain with how they jump him back and forward and where his shots go and his role changes, all that sort of stuff. If I go on to the ESPN Points League streaming, it's a pretty similar list. The only name that I'm going to add into there is Keon Ellis. So we've got Jose Alvarado, I've got Peyton Watson, I've got AJ Johnson. But I'll throw Keon in there. Now, he has been starting. I expect that he continues to start. He hasn't been very good in most of those roles, and it's not necessarily even starting that it appears like that we need with Keon. We need somebody out, because he started and had big games. But usually the reason he started was because somebody was out. Levine, Monk, DeRozan, and they'd start him, and he'd have good numbers. But now he's starting, and Monk is still there and coming off the bench. And yeah, they've cut 8 minutes off Malik Monk, but that doesn't mean that Alice is going to get to do everything that he would need to do to be a strong fantasy player. But if he's a 29-minute player, there's probably enough there with the elevated bump that you get in ESPN from steals and blocks in points leagues. I don't mind it. I've got Bub Carrington there as well, and I've got Tristan Vukcevic. But you'll note, again, there are 3 Wizards there: Johnson, Carrington, and Vukcevic. And there's risk with the way Brian Keefe and the Wizards are currently using their rotation. The Wizards are an interesting team, right? Because we know they're bad. We know they were bad last season. But people then go, oh, they're bad. They are, and chuck this idea of they're the worst. They're this aggressive tanking team. They've been so impossible to predict rotation-wise for years and years and years. And that's just not true. Because part of our criticism, and yes, it is true, they are a bad franchise. And they have been a bad franchise. But part of the reason we criticize the Wizards franchise was they wouldn't tank. Ted Leonsis would push for the 8th seed every year. And they would sign mediocre or not superstar level players, Bradley Beal, to elevated contracts to keep them around to push for that 8th seed. We said, what are you doing? You're not doing anything here. Stop paying these contracts. Go for the rebuild. So they did. And then last year, they didn't do lineup shenanigans really at all. We saw Kuzma out at the end of the season, but guys like Poole played all the way through. They didn't do lineup shenanigans. And this season, they didn't either until about a week and a half ago. They didn't do anything like that until now. But because they've been a notoriously bad franchise for different reasons, and because they're a bad team now and last year, we just assume, yeah, they're doing like the Jazz do and sit every player at every point and everything's completely random, when honestly, it's been 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks over 2 years that they've done it, but it gets extrapolated into this is what they always do, which again is just not true. It doesn't really help us now because it's happening right now, but I think context on all this stuff is important. Because when we get to next season, people are going to be like, I'm never drafting a Wizards player. Look at what they do always. They're just tanking perpetually, which is just not true. It's literally the opposite of that. And They didn't have any of that lineup uncertainty stuff that we copped with Utah. It just didn't happen. Cool. We should do category leagues. Yeah, we should. We'll get into talking category leagues and the individual sort of groupings of players that we're looking at to stream. We'll come back to that in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever get in and check your bank account and go, where'd the money go? What happened to the money? Well, between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, other things like, I don't know, bribes, who knows? Who knows what you're doing with your money? It could be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money. That's not what you're just doing. You're doing that. That's part of it. But you're also trying to build your wealth. So instead of juggling multiple apps with all your different bank accounts and investments and shares and stocks and portfolios and bonds, they're things that people say. What about your gold investments? All there. You can get it all into one app with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Okay, we're back, and we are ready to talk about category league streaming options for fantasy. We'll talk about the guys that we can look at, 6 options for points and threes as streamers, and a lot of the similar names, because you know that points and threes to a degree, but points correlate with fantasy points as well. So, Jose Alvarado, Bob Carrington, Bryce Sensabaugh, asterisk, because that is under the assumption that Markkanen does not play, and Sexton probably, if he plays limited minutes or does not play. Sensabaugh's been pretty good. But again, it's really hard to trust. Like, one of the names that actually came up on my top 6 was Johnny Juzang. I don't think I want to chuck Johnny Juzang in there because he honestly could play 12 minutes. He could play 28 minutes. Until I hear about Markkanen and I hear about Sexton completely, and Kessler for that matter, especially with rebounds. I put Oscar Tshiebwe in there, but I don't know. But just remember, Johnny Juzang could jump into this list. I've got Luguentz Dort there. If Wiggins plays, I do worry a little bit about Dort, and he could also sit out, but what he does is get steals, he has points, he has threes. AJ Johnson, again, the risky option, but sometimes we just want to lean into the probability of big minutes. And he has the probability of big minutes. I think he's played close to 80 minutes combined in his last 2 games. And then, of course, the big fella, Tristan Vukcevic. He's a points, threes, rebounds, blocks player. It's a pretty good combination. If we got a 30-minute game, he would put up a number, a line where he would be my thumbnail on a daily recap show. I'm certain of that. It's him and Makovic sort of battling for, hey, can we get 30 minutes because we will blow up? I'm very confident that will happen. It's just about getting those minutes. And it'll happen one game. We'll get it from Vukcevic. I need a better nickname. I can't call him Vooch. That's already one GOAT. Can't have 2 of them. And what can... Vuk? That sounds very rude. And I'm sure that gets past the YouTube censor police. Sure it does. Vuk. You could say, maybe I could put that on the thumbnail. He puts up a big game. Get Vucked. Cinema. Let's talk about assists and steals. Jose Alvarado. Well, if he doesn't do that, what else does he do? Isaiah Collier. If he doesn't do that, what else does he do? Chris Dunn. Is it Christian Dunn or Christopher Dunn? Or is it just Chris? Or is it Chris Cross Dunn? I don't know. It's early here. AJ Johnson. Lord Alfred Payton. His assist rate is insane. It's like 15 assists per 100 possessions, I think, this season. And there's no CJ. He probably won't start but 20 minutes, 22 minutes. A way to develop your youth. But to be fair, they don't have a young point guard to try and develop. And they don't have one of their two-way deals either. I believe... if I was a general manager, I never would be, I would always try to have a two-way contract point guard. Because having competent point guard play is just one of the things that is so key in the NBA, whether it's a starter. Now, it's hard to win if your best player is a point guard who is small. It's hard to win titles. But you need competent point guard play through 48 minutes of a game. So I would always be just trying to see what I've got. The way that Memphis did it with Scottie Pippen, for example. Just developing the point guards, and they take time to develop. You got 3 two-ways. I would always make sure one of my two-ways is that, versus like wings like Keon Brooks. No offense to Keon and his family, who I'm sure are watching. But I'd rather have someone like that. Team building. The Hornets, I think, did it right here with KJ Simpson on the two-way. He was a draft pick. He probably shouldn't have been a two-way. Should have been on a real contract. And I actually don't mind just adding him rest of season. He's playing 30 minutes a night. He's not going to score much, but like what he got last game, was it 10 points, 2 threes, 6 assists, and a steal? Why can't he just do that every game? He probably can. And that's not absolutely a must, but it's absolutely a name where we go, maybe we should look at KJ Simpson a little bit more, Kenneth Simpson Jr. Let's look at boards and blocks, and it is the big fella Peyton Watson with the gigantic asterisk. Hey, if Aaron Gordon's out, this is where we go. Tristan Vukcevic, maybe we get vucked on this one. I don't know. But he's an option. Justin Champagny, he could also bubble over and give us not very much. So that's the risk with the Wizards. Carlo Makovic, even in his 21 minutes, which seems like what we're set on getting, I would play him over Yves Missi, but whatever, I don't know anything. At the moment, he's giving us just enough. A 6-rebound game with 2 blocks, maybe. There's minutes there. He's doing enough in those minutes to be useful to stream, but that's about it. Steven Adams is risky for different reasons because they could blow out their opponent. I think they play a really bad team. If I'm going to double check that. Who do they play? The Houston Rockets play... the Utah Jazz. Yeah, okay. So he might go out there, play 5 minutes and be like, we're not doing this anymore. So that is risky. Another one there is Kelly Olynyk, who he's going to start. He will play his 25 minutes most of the time. The other name to watch, who's jumped up a lot in terms of roster percentage, is Bruce Brown for all of these categories because he's starting and playing good minutes. So we do like Bruce. He's just jumped up in a lot of different spots in terms of the roster numbers. If we look at percentages, I am going to throw, again, this is trying to forward project some stuff with the Nuggets. I'm going to throw DeAndre Jordan on this list. Not that I think Nikola Jokic is out. He might be. But I think Aaron Gordon's out, meaning they can't play small ball with Aaron Gordon at center, meaning we maybe get 15 minutes of DeAndre Jordan in that game. And if you get 15 minutes of DeAndre Jordan, can he go 3 of 3 from the field? And they play the Spurs, who are not good. So there could be extra minutes in garbage time for DeAndre Jordan. I'm going to put Derrick Jones on that list and Timothy John McConnell, who is always good to get the rare guard field goal percentage option. For free throws, Bryce Sensabaugh. Nick Smith, who, he's bad. And Dennis Schroeder, who would actually, if Schroeder was available, and his roster percentage is still really high because of people just holding on for no reason, if we see Cade out, and we already know Sass is out, but remember, if Cade plays, Sass is at 0, he gets 0 minutes, so that doesn't impact things. But if Cade is out, and Sasser is out, then Schroeder can go way up. And he would be the top guy to add, basically across the board, if we know that Cade is out and if he's available. Because he's still sitting at like 50-odd% or whatever, rostered in leagues. That is the end. Check any of those facts if you like. Maybe you want to check that fact on Dennis Schroeder's roster percentage. It is International Fact Checking Day, of course, so go and do that. Go and subscribe to this show. Sign up for the newsletters. Keep your lineups rolling. Keep everything going well. Keep yourselves going well. Eat healthy. Get some sleep. Get some rest. Get some exercise. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Post-credit scene. I told you, the Celtics. Al Horford is doubtful. Porzingis is questionable. Drew Holiday is questionable. Jaylen Brown is questionable. Of course they are. I told you, every game, the Cavs, the Thunder, and the Celtics are going to have 1 to 2 players that are out or questionable. Someone is going to be out every game, and they're going to have multiple things. So Brown, Holiday, Porzingis, all questionable. Al Horford, doubtful. Dub. I'll see you guys later.